Promote your brand here at Viral Hip Hop News. Hit me, Sam Ant, at DLSMediaInc1 at gmail.com. DLSMediaInc1 at gmail.com. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. I'm your brother, old guy from Hip Hop News Uncensored, and sitting across from me as my co-host.
What up, y'all? It's your man, Sam Ant, CEO of Viral Hip Hop News. You're in the building for a very special edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. Back for round two. We got the good Dr. Wesley Muhammad on the podcast. How you doing today, sir?
I'm excellent. How about yourselves?
Very well, Dad. Thank you and appreciate you coming on. Like we said a little earlier, got you in the building, man. This is going to be an absolutely phenomenal interview. So before we get to the proceedings, Stephen, how you feeling? How's everything in your world since the last time we spoke to you?
Man, I'm excellent. As you know, we are remembering and celebrating the legacy of the historic 1995 Million Man March this weekend, October 15th and 16th. So I'm very excited about that, and things are well.
Excellent. Awesome. I'm gonna start off talking about, I seen you doing, I don't know if it's like a series on the marijuana. I think that's very interesting to us because we see a lot of us are smokers. You know what I mean? A lot of people I know smoke, and they got this, a lot of places they made it legal now, including the state that we're in. What's up with the marijuana? I mean, is it good, bad? Because we're kind of under the impression that it's a safe drug in the Black community and there's no fatalities. Nobody ever overdose from it. So could you kind of shed light on that for us, for our audience?
Yes, that's part of the pot plot. Now, of course, when I speak of marijuana in the context of the pot plot, I'm not speaking of cannabis, the herb that God planted, right? We know that God gave us the cannabis plant as a boon to humanity. It absolutely has great good in it when used properly. But the marijuana at the root of the state legalization ruse, I call it a ruse because the state by state legalization of marijuana is nothing but a modern day trick by the U.S. government that has several aspects to it. One, state by state legalization, so long as marijuana possession is still federally criminalized, only serves to trick and trap Black men in particular. And this is why in states where marijuana possession has been legalized, the arrest rate of Black and brown men has not declined, it has increased. In Colorado, in Illinois, in California, there are more Black and brown men getting arrested for marijuana possession since legalization than was getting arrested before legalization. It's a great trick. Also, the marijuana that is made available in these legalized states is weaponized. It's not God's plant. It's synthetic marijuana, meaning government created, lab created marijuana, the THC preparations in legal dispensaries and on the street. This is a lab created molecule that has a number of very dangerous effects on the physiology and neurology. Now, I say in closing, the fact that you don't see people dropping, well, you used to not see people dropping dead for smoking a blunt, even though today with lacing marijuana with fentanyl and other chemicals, people are dropping dead. But the fact that marijuana use usually does not result in fatalities is part of the trick, because our enemies have moved from lethal weapons to non-lethal weapons. So the aim with marijuana isn't to kill. The aim with weaponized marijuana is to control. And so in that sense, the pot plot is very successful. And we think that weaponized weed is safe because it doesn't kill. No, it's not intended to kill. It's intended to control, and that it is doing.
Powerful, and definitely appreciate that insight. And wherever you're watching or listening right now, go ahead and hit that like button, show some love, and let's keep working. So obviously, Dr. Muhammad, we are a hip hop platform, but we like to go against the grain and get into the deeper underlying of what hip hop's really doing, in particular to what.
That's what I love about your platform.
Thank you very much. We did definitely appreciate that. We see a lot going on in hip hop now, and we're going to try to break it down layer by layer real quick if we can. First place I want to start is with Kanye West. Now, he's obviously been outspoken for a number of years. This time in particular, he talked about the Jewish community, and we're seeing the ramifications behind that. Just recently, JP Morgan said, your money, the $1 billion that you have, is no good here. What do you think about what's going on with Kanye West in totality, and how do you feel about banks and other people in power starting to kind of back away from him?
I'm very concerned for the well-being and the safety of my brother Kanye West. Kanye West is speaking a lot of truth right now, and he's triggering a very dangerous enemy. I'm not happy to see necessarily my brother going DEFCON 3 on the Jews. Not that what he's saying isn't true, but I have grave concerns. My brother is a $1 billion black man.
Yeah.
And only a fraction of his billions is from his records. So that means this is a brilliant black mind that was able to generate a $1 billion multi-industry. And we know the pandemic of Black Death in hip hop. To a great extent, we know it goes back to one of the music industry's darkest secrets, the death clause that is a part of every record label contract. Death clause that the record labels can trigger when they determine that an artist is more profitable to them dead than alive. This death clause is real, and this death clause, it was triggered with Michael Jackson. It was triggered with Prince. It was triggered with Kurt Cobain. And I suspect that it's been triggered with a great number of the recent hip hop deaths. And so when I look at Kanye West, a $1 billion black man, his mind is so brilliant, it was able to generate $1 billion. And I see him with good reason threatening to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish execs of Hollywood. Jewish execs of Hollywood are those who are the Wizards of Oz, responsible for the carnage that has become hip hop and has become black life as a result of the commandeering of hip hop. It is the Jewish execs of Hollywood who's ultimately behind that. So Kanye West is speaking the truth. I fear that when JP Morgan makes the decision to turn away his $1 billion, I suspect and I fear that they have plans to get that brilliant black man's $1 billion in some other way. And I would hope that our brother is protected. I would hope that those around him are real careful about who is let into his circle, who's even feeding him his food. Because, now close on this note, when they trigger the death clause in order to profiteer from an artist that outlived his value in life and want to cash in death, one of their main methods is death by a contrived accident. This is CIA language. a contrived accident, a drug overdose, for example. And so I would hope that we don't find out that our brother Kanye West accidentally died of a drug overdose or accidentally died by a medical procedure as his mother did. Because I know they want to separate that black man from his $1 billion.
You know, oftentimes we put up videos, like we talk like this on our platform a lot. People will say some of the same stuff that you say. I want to ask you about the blood sacrificing thing. In your opinion, is that aspect of blood and real in hip hop where people actually give up what they call blood sacrifices in order to move to certain levels of fame and notoriety and wealth?
So we know for a fact that when hip hop went Hollywood, Hollywood's darkest secret is an underbelly of gay pedophilia. Harvey Weinstein was a scapegoat. Harvey Weinstein's crimes was heterosexual sexual violence. But the bigger crime of Hollywood is homosexual sexual violence, in particular, gay pedophilia. Hip hop began intersecting with Hollywood. And so when Inspector Deck talks about the parties, the Hollywood parties that him and other Wu-Tang members went to and saw these gay rituals taking place, we know that Newsweek exposed hip-hop's gay subculture. But the gay subculture of hip-hop, the secret gay underground of hip-hop, resulted from hip-hop going Hollywood. The gay moguls of Hollywood that are both movie moguls and music moguls, they absolutely contrived a secret homosexual underground. Now, we call it blood ritualism. What I do know is that there is absolutely a contrived and engineered hip-hop gay underculture, which was down low in the 90s into early 2000s. But in 2019, when the Los Angeles Times declared that at that time hip-hop was at its queerest moment, with Lil Nas X coming out, that was the tip of the iceberg. Now we have Saucy Santana shaking his booty all over the place, and that is on heavy rotation in hip-hop. That represents hip-hop today. So we have the down low subculture being brought right up to the surface. That is real.
I think that's a good time to segue into what I want to ask you next. And that's, you see a lot of agitators on social media, in particular Instagram, YouTube, and things like that, where they'll provoke a lot of hip hop rappers. They'll say very disrespectful things about their family, very disrespectful things about the dead, very disrespectful things about their children, all kind of stuff. And we see them rewarded for it. They're rewarded in interview compensation. They're rewarded with speaking engagements, various different ways of monetizing the ignorance and the they're messing with and poking at people within hip hop. I don't know if you know any of these casted characters. I don't know if you've seen anything online, but what do you think about that overall? A lot of people say that they may be involved in some type of law enforcement to really get inside of or get on the nerves of people within hip hop and get them in trouble and get them caught up. I don't know if it's that deep, but what do you think about it?
You know, I'm really being in Chicago now for 10 years and encountering drill rap only since I've been here. Drill rap is frightening in ways that gangster rap really wasn't. Mm-hmm. Gangster rap from the beginning, so-called gangster rap from the beginning, was always studio. It was always scripted. Drill rap, the level of disrespect of the dead and the level of real death and carnage that precedes and follows it is very ominous. I'm going to say this. I heard T Grizzly recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a T Grizzly fan.
Mm-hmm.
For confession, transparency.
Yeah.
I'm a trap music fan, transparency. As a consumer, I heard T Grizzly after dropping Burglar and then getting burglarized. I heard him call for rappers to watch what they say because their words have power. It can come back on them. And that is very wise counsel because rappers have been sending out horrible karma for decades. And that karma was inevitably going to return to the community. So now there's a pandemic of death in hip hop right now.
Yeah.
We can look to and be suspicious of the record labels and their death clause, and we want to know why so many artists from Empire are dead.
Mm-hmm.
Has the death clause been triggered in all of those accounts and these rappers were set up to be murdered? I don't know. However, as artists, we have sent out bad angels that were going to come back to haunt us. So we have to watch what we say. And with drill rap in particular, the level of viciousness is really jarring, and the carnage that precedes and follows it should give us pause. So I'm very concerned. The last thing I would say, big white money is behind this black carnage. Hip hop, the biggest consumers are hip hop. The biggest consumers of hip hop are white people.
Mm-hmm.
White people write the script. White people pay for the product, and white people enjoy the product. So money is put behind black people, disrespecting black people. Big white money is put behind black on black carnage because this is entertainment for white people. Now Kanye is in all this trouble because he has what they consider disparaging words about Jews, but those same Jews financed his and other disparaging words about black people.
Kind of adding on to that, you see, like we see that white people are the biggest consumer of hip hop. How come, in your opinion, doesn't it affect them like it does affect, like, you know, we talk about slut rap and gangster rap and drill rap. It seems to affect our community more so than the white community. Why is that? As far as, you know, birthing out more thugs and more hoes and more Jezebels, as opposed to the white community, you know, seemingly birthing out more businessmen and things like that.
Right. For a very simple reason. Most whites look at hip hop as a source of entertainment. Most blacks look at hip hop as a source of emulation. We look at that and want to emulate that. Suburban whites live vicariously through the thug on the album they're listening to, but they can turn that song off and live their suburban life. And so they are very clear regarding the difference between life and art. But with black people, we don't look at our hip hop artists as just entertainers. We look at our hip hop artists as sources to be emulated, sources to be followed. We want to be like them. We want to have what they have. And we have been convinced that in order to have what they have, we have to try to live like they act like they live. We have to try to sound like them, look like them. If they are talking about, if they are disrespecters of our mothers and sisters and daughters, then we emulate that. White people keep entertainment where it should be. Black people, because we have been robbed of culture, so we don't have that cultural protection. So we want to emulate everything we see on the screen, everything we hear in our music. That's the difference. Entertainment, source of entertainment versus source of emulation.
I want to add on a little bit further to that. We seen, I forget the exact name, that was trying to push the movement for rappers' lyrics not to be used against them in court. How do you feel about that aspect? That new, I think they pushed a certain law in a certain state. How do you feel about that? Rappers' lyrics not being used against them in court.
I think it's foolish, but very conspiratorial to use a rapper's lyrics in court, knowing that A&R people control the image of most of these rappers. A&R people and execs encourage these rappers to include violence and crime in their lyrics. Most of these lawyers know that most of these crime lyrics are scripted. So to use them as probative in a court of law, it's very conspiratorial. But the flip side of that is, to my earlier point, the chickens were always going to come home to roost. Take the RICO Act, the RICO laws that are now being weaponized against the rappers, right? The RICO laws were constructed to take down the mafia. And for decades, rappers have emulated the Italian mafia. And now, in a horrible display of poetry and irony, those RICO laws are now being weaponized against rappers who and rap has emulated the Italian mafia for so long. Chickens are coming home to roost with us in hip hop today. That's my point. Whether it's with the use of our lyrics, our scripted lyrics that have real life impact for Black people in the community. Black people have suffered from these lyrics for decades. And now the enemy is bringing our brothers in court and using those lyrics against them. I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but it was inevitable. These chickens were inevitably coming home to roost. And I think that is what hip hop is facing across the board right now.
Expound on that. That kind of puts me perfectly into my next question, which was about Young Thug. Last year, we had a very powerful conversation about Young Thug in particular. And now we see him as one of the head men going through exactly what you just articulated. What do you think about his personal battle currently? And according to the Georgia DA, I forgot what city she's in, but according to her, there's more to come, and we'll hear more names. What do you think about Young Thug and his people who are currently behind bars with him?
Of course, they're scapegoating Young Thug and Gunna. I pray that all of them beat that case. I think it is an unjust case. I want our brothers to be free. Young Thug was touched by the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan. And when the Honorable Brother Minister Farrakhan met Young Thug, he saw and he told him that he saw God in him. And I see God in my brother Young Thug. His handlers, Young Thug's handlers, was Satan. And that's why he was on his album covers with dresses on. But Young Thug isn't gay. And Young Thug isn't this monster that the Georgia DA is trying to paint him as. He is a budding God. And I would want our brother to have the opportunity to grow into his best potential, his greatest potential. But the court systems, everybody is targeting our rappers because our rappers have been the gods of the Black community for so long, but also too many white children have been caught up in the swag of the Black rapper. And see, when the patriarchs of white society can't pass their power in their industry down to their children, because in their mind, their children have been too corrupted by the influence of hip hop, then you see this society really going DEFCON 3 to you say with that language, going DEFCON 3 on hip hop. So I think the RICO Act arrests are part and parcel with the pandemic of death that we are seeing. And I think both of those are also part and parcel with the clear homosexualizing of hip hop that we see as well. I think those are three phenomena that seem separate on the surface, but underneath are connected at the root.
And do you think the knowledge that's being, presented here is great? Do you think some of the Black, because you got your Black execs like JayZ, your Diddy's, and people like that, Birdman's, do you think that, and obviously I don't know if you know or not, but do they know about this elaborate thing going on? And if so, why do they remain silent, in your opinion?
I won't speak because I can't speak
Right.
on what either of my brothers know or don't know. I know my brother JayZ knows Leo Cohen and Doug Morris. I know my brother Diddy knows Clive Davis. These, of course, are very important architects of, or these individuals, Doug Morris, Clive Davis, Leo Cohen, David Geffen. This is the real so-called Illuminati of hip hop. This is the Jewish gay mafia that controls hip hop, and has used hip hop to socially engineer Black America. So I won't insinuate, suggest, or accuse JayZ or Diddy of anything. But I do know that Doug Morris, Leo Cohen, David Geffen, Clive Davis, these are the wicked gatekeepers of hip hop.
I'm going to transition a little bit into our world, and I don't want to go political, but we've seen a transition in presidents, and it's been almost 3 years, 4 years now. It's crazy as that sounds. It's been very fast. Have you seen a difference? I mean, everyone cried during the political campaign of we got to get this individual out. We got to get him out for change. We got him out. Has it been any change to you?
No. The truth of the matter is the only change was with President Trump. Mm. And the reason, and by change, I just mean how presidency is done.
Right.
The president is never the ruler of this land. That has never been how American politics work. the president is always the figurehead. There are powers behind the throne that determine how policy is set and executed in America. So whether it's Barack Obama or whether it's Ronald Reagan, the powers behind the throne of the presidency have always been the real powers in the land. The difference with Trump, and I'm not a Trump fan, but I'm not a Biden fan either.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can appreciate about Trump is because he wasn't a politician. He wasn't trained in politics. He was running in truth, not to be president. Neither he nor anybody thought he would make it. He was running to boost his career, his business, and television assets. And then when he won, it was as much a shock to him as everybody else. But because he's not a politician, he was very transparent. He spoke a lot of truths. And he did not comply with the presidential way, meaning he was a notorious liar, as all presidents are, but he didn't tell the approved lies of this government.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a shakeup in politics. And so here comes Biden. Biden's policies, foreign and domestic, are as bad as Trump's policies. But of course, these were neither Biden policies nor Trump policies. We may vote for the president to get in office, but that does not give us control over the policies of the U.S. because once the president is in office, somebody else takes the reins from there.
Wow. What do you see the next play being? Because it seems like with Black America, and we were talking about the time of the election, we've seen a lot of like celebrities, radio personalities, heavy Democratic Party, and you got some blacks down on the Republican Party as well. What do you see in the next, move being for Black people to kind of sway them to get their vote?
Well, one, neither the Democratic Party nor the Republican Party has ever been in the interest of Black people. I do greatly lament seeing all of this Black hype about the Democratic Party. Neither party has Black interests at heart. The Democrats are better users of Black people than the Republicans. Mm-hmm. So it's the Democrats that put out that ridiculous video with Saucy Santana and Trina to get out the vote. The Democrats insult Black people, our intelligence, our dignity, far more than even Trump Republicans do. Nobody is more insulting to the dignity of Black people than the Democratic Party. So I don't like all of the hype around investing in the vote. We in the Nation of Islam, we value the judicious use of our voting potential and power. But to just give the Democrats our vote because we don't like Trump or the Republicans is very lazy and very irresponsible, in my opinion. So the next play, we've already seen the next play again with that ridiculous Saucy Santana and Trina get out the vote video when the Democrats attached to Cardi B and made Cardi B a legitimate face of Black politics for us. They play us so, the Democrats play Black people for fools so successfully. So the next play will be their next playing us for fools. They will continue to do it. And Black people need to wake up to the fact that we are only tools for the Democrats. And I will end on this. In the Democratic administration of President Obama, his Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, said openly in 2010 that hip hop was a tool at the disposal of the US government. And she said that hip hop was a chess piece in a multi-dimensional chess game that the US government is playing. So when you see the US government partnering with hip hop artists, this is the US government deploying this tool, moving this chess piece on the board in this multi-dimensional chess game.
You know, we had Royce the 5'9" on a little over a month ago, and we were talking about hip hop media as it currently looks. And he said that, you know, Black people get on certain platforms and say whatever they want, but if Black hip hop media personalities were to ask these hip hop artists the same questions as their white counterparts, they'd kill them. Why does it seem like there's so much hate and vitriol toward our own, even in particular, like just call on something small like hip hop media and how rappers and hip hop media, independent media kind of cohorts? Why does it seem like we're so involved in self-hatred as opposed to, you know what I mean, showing each other a little more love as we so talk about on social media and various things like that?
In my opinion, my humble opinion, that's one of the illustrations of the failure of the Black Lives Matter movement. I have always said that Black Lives Matter, when directed towards white people, is profoundly misdirected. A call to value Black life needs to go to Black people. Black people have suffered from Black self-hatred since slavery. The most important objective of any Black leader is to help to heal Black people of Black self-hatred. And so Black life, Black people need to be made to value Black life. And so when we put all of our eggs in trying to convince white people to value Black life, while we so blatantly before the world show our disdain for Black life, we show it not just in the vitriol towards our own hip hop platforms, we show it in the vitriol that we show towards each other in our lyrics. Black self-hatred is at the root of all of the carnage that characterizes Black life in America. So to put our eggs in a basket of trying to convince white people that Black life matters was always wrong-headed. To me, our number one duty, in those of us who are considered or consider ourselves influencers, whether on the ground or on social media, we have to influence Black people to value Black. But right. White people will never in the world has no business valuing Black life while we show the world that we don't value Black life. It's useless trying to argue that point until we have solved the problem of Black self-hatred. And that Black self-hatred displays itself in such a spectrum of ways, including the disrespect of Black media, hip hop media in particular, by Black artists.
And my last question, I was actually going to ask you about the Black Lives Matter. How do you feel about, I think Candace Owens is doing like a full expose on the Black Lives Matter, the organization bringing in tons of money, but buying things like mansions and things like that. How do you feel about the infrastructure of the Black Lives Matter? Would you say that it totally failed Black people, or is there any glimmer of hope for them in the future?
I am not, if we were to do an accounting of how Democrats spend their donations, if we were to vet the mansions that Democrats and Republicans live in from money that were donated to them, then we would see that they aren't using these donations any differently than Black Lives Matter. I will not participate in that critique of this Black effort, because whatever they are doing with that money, legally or criminally, they are no different than any of the other political movements out there. So I will not enter into that criticism. My criticism of Black Lives Matter was they, with Jewish money, advocated a Black village that has no place for the Black father. I got problems with the organization for that. My criticism is that the plea to value Black life should never have been directed first to white people. It should have been directed to Black people. But you will not get me to participate in the scrutinizing of their use of money when the people who gave them that money themselves are so criminal. No, I'm not going to engage in that criticism.
Interesting. Yeah.
Powerful. We definitely appreciate you, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, on the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening right now, because I know we are live in a few locations, please hit that like button. Let us know you appreciate the content, because we definitely appreciate y'all. Dr. Wesley Muhammad, it's been an honor to have you on. Can't wait to have you back on, because we enjoy these powerful builds. Love to have you come into the building live one day. We'll definitely schedule that. But before we get out of here, please leave your social media handles, where they can find y'all and where they can continue to watch your speaking.
This is a very powerful Black media hip hop platform, and I definitely encourage all of the viewers to continue to support Hip Hop Uncensored. I'm honored to be invited back. You just let me know, give the word, and I see you in the studio. I can be accessed at www.wesleymuhammad.com. That's my website. I'm available on Instagram, Wesley Muhammad. I'm available on YouTube, Wesley Muhammad, and Facebook, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, as well as Wesley Muhammad.
Definitely appreciate you, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, on the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. Once again, it's an honor, and thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Enjoy, everybody. Have a good night.